So I'm talking with Wayne Tuttle, and Wayne Tuttle is currently a vice principal at Kelly Walsh High School in Natrona County. But we're actually going to be talking about his time when he was principal of Evansville Elementary School and the work that they were doing around vocabulary instruction. So Wayne, can you talk about how you and the teachers at your school were engaged with each other around vocabulary learning?
Absolutely. So we had an interest in looking at ways to improve student reading success, and through the work that we did with UW, we discovered that probably our most urgent need was some vocabulary instruction. And so as we continued to do our partnership with University of Wyoming, we had the opportunity to really delve deeply into vocabulary, and it kind of became the focus of what we were doing to improve reading. And so people became passionate about ways to get students to improve their vocabulary instruction. They got lots of ideas from the things they were reading and the conversations they were having, but then they went out and explored some things on their own, because that's just the way teachers are. They get a little information and they take it to deeper levels. So we consistently looked for ways in our PLCs of how are we working on supporting vocabulary, what are we doing to improve that, and what are ways we can get kids more invested, which was the biggest thing. With that focus being so prevalent, kids noticed too, and it kind of not only improved their vocabulary, but it also improved their interest and love of reading and looking for unique and interesting words to share with others. So we got a kind of a double bonus with that, because kids wanted to read more as well.
So when you were doing this work over the year as an administrator, what kinds of things were you looking for? You know, when you're walking around from classroom to classroom, talking with teachers, joining in PLCs, things like that.
Sure. I was looking for them to have conversations about what are we going to be doing next to work on that vocabulary? How can we push each other? I didn't have a specific like, hey, I need to see all of you doing the same thing, because I don't like, think that's as powerful as um, where you guys think you're at, what can you do to build on that, and how are you going to progress. So different grade levels took different tacks toward the same goal of improving vocabulary. So I was looking for that commitment to working on vocabulary, sharing what you were doing with each other, and then potentially then if you had a good idea that other people wanted at other grade levels, sharing it with them as well. So we did have several share outs at staff meetings where folks gave ideas of what they were doing, and then people picked up on those. So it was really a very collaborative effort where people were growing and learning from each other. And I really felt my role was to support where I needed to, because the teachers were pushing each other to continue to grow and excel.
So when teachers had that sort of, you know, that voice and that choice and how they were doing it, you saw them really take up the reins and move with it in the areas where they needed to, which maybe created a little bit more investment on their part.
Yeah, absolutely. So I taught for 24 years before I became a principal. And I know that the most power comes from when teachers are engaged in what they're doing, passionate about what they're doing. So I just tried to create the avenues for them to uh, get that engagement level and to support each other, and supported where I needed to. I didn't always enjoy as a teacher when I was told how I had to do it, because I oftentimes thought I had a better idea. So I just continued to focus us on the idea of vocabulary. How are we growing it? How are we sharing it with others? And they came up with ideas that would have been much better than anything that I could have ever said. This is how we'll do it.
Yeah. So when you think about those ideas, what made vocabulary learning successful?
They made it engaging to kids. So I mean, I think of a one where they did a graffiti wall and kids thought that was pretty exciting. Um, I think of another where they were putting words on, if I remember correctly, the roots of a flower, and those were parts of the flower. So it was interesting to kids, and it got kids involved in what they were doing. And just as when teachers get voice and choice in what they're doing, when kids get voice and choice, that's pretty powerful too in my mind. So I think the teachers did a great job of doing that with kids, making it meaningful at their grade level for students to really invest in wanting to understand words better.
So the flip side to that, when you're thinking about this vocabulary work as an administrator and having it play out across a whole school, across a whole year, what were some of the challenges that you encountered?
So there were times that certain groups would feel like they weren't getting as much momentum as they wanted. And I think, looking back at that, in some ways that might have been where some people do like that voice and choice more. Some of those groups that may have struggled a little bit would have liked more, this is exactly what we want you to do. And so I think that was a challenge of I saw it as a much more organic process than from step A to step B to step C. And if you think more in a step A, step B, step C style, the organic process is not always conducive for you, and it's sometimes challenging for you. So meeting the needs of the educators, just like we asked them to do with students, probably was something I could have done better to help those groups along the way as well. I think the other challenge was people wanted there to be like, okay, clear, like we've done step A, step B, and now we see the results. And this was more, I think, of an investment of time that school, Evansville, is starting to see investment of results now as kids have been working on this for several years.
Mm.
So it didn't
So,
have the immediate feedback that people maybe wanted.
yeah, well, professional development often doesn't have an immediate effect.
Correct.
Um, so can you talk a little bit about how you supported some of those challenges? I know you said that you probably could have done a better job with it, but
Yeah. So I think what I feel like the best support was encouraging those groups to talk to other teachers who were in. I mean, I can share ideas. I can give articles. I can even invite the University of Wyoming in, but really a lot of power comes from when a teacher says, this isn't working for me, and they walk down the hall and talk to a teacher it is working for, and they get their ideas from that. And so I encourage that through staff meetings, having those conversations, PLCs, if it was at the same grade level, they got together frequently and had those conversations. Staff meetings were about monthly, and we tried to hit on what are we doing with vocabulary each month so that those folks could maybe, I'm not sure how to do this, but I can go down to that grade level because they seem to have a pretty good handle on that. So really it was about empowering the expertise within the building to share with each other. And several people even put together presentations that they then shared throughout the state and at a conference in Colorado as well. Those things developed from the work that was done.
and so it was empowering teachers, but then also offering flexibility in the collaborative school-wide times of PLCs and faculty meetings to have those focused not just on business and student data, but also teacher learning.
Right, right. So for me, part of that professional learning community is learning. So absolutely, we need to look at some data, but there also needs to be some embedded professional development to help people grow. And so that was a very important part of what we were doing, both in those PLCs and at staff meetings. Really, I would hope that the teachers would say, and I think I was pretty successful at, our staff meetings really became about learning opportunities. And if it was something that was more managerial, that could easily be shared in an email or through our leadership team sharing it at grade levels. We tried not to spend a lot of staff meeting time on administrative stuff that didn't need to be rehashed multiple times. We tried to spend our time, if there was going to be a debate, I wanted it to be about educational progress for students.
So the last question I was going to ask you, you already kind of answered it, but if there's anything else to add, what you noticed in the students as a result of an emphasis placed on vocabulary learning in the school.
Yeah, they found a love for words, and in finding that love for words, they also found a passion for reading because they were looking for those interesting words that they didn't know, trying to grow their vocabulary, or words that they had learned and like, hey, I want to find that in reading. So it really did enhance not just their vocabularies, but their desire to read and get excited about books. And that really is a credit to the teachers in the way that they made that vocabulary exploration in the classroom exciting. Students then wanted to go out and do that and model what their teachers had done. So any credit for that improved investment in vocabulary goes to the teachers and the great work that they did.
Yeah, right. Anything else you'd like to add just about the importance of vocabulary learning in elementary schools or through your experiences?
Well, I'll just say that Evansville was a Title I school, and they had identified for years before I was there, and even when I first got there, the vocabulary was an area of growth for kids, and so that's why we identified it as the need. And I think as their vocabulary is improved, um, it was beneficial, not only to their learning and test scores, but it's just beneficial to their life, because they're able to be more articulate, able to be more engaged, able to be more literate. So it was work that was very important. And I think it's work that's paying off for some of those kids now as they move into junior high and high school.
All right. Well, thank you, Wayne, for
Oh,
time today.
you're welcome. It's been my
Appreciate
pleasure.
your insights.